What's up, chat? Today we're going to be going from this
Nothing.
to this.
Something.
And I had to re-record that part because I lost focus on the first take, even though the first take was better than this one. But to get there, I'm going to have to go through a few steps. And that means breaking stuff up into smaller pieces. Okay, so what do we know that we want? Well, the task at hand is to make the task at hand is to make an audio splitter module box thing that bolts under the desk, or a desk, or any desk, or onto or within a desk. Probably not within a desk. So, to make this happen, what needs to happen to make this happen? What needs to come together? Well, right now, we need audio jacks, because you can't get audio from somewhere without it going into somewhere. It's common audio knowledge. If you're an audio professional, you'd know that already. And likely you'd know that already if you've used any technological device made since the late 1900s. So, discussing with the client, we settled on these. They are readily available, they are common, and they are cheap. And they're stereo, and they're 6.35mm, and they look good. Okay, so the jacks are sorted. Now what do we need? Well, we can just wire them together, but, you know, it's a bit flimsy wiring, especially with constant use. So something that's a bit easier to manage and a bit more reliable than having crossed wires everywhere is a PCB. Now a PCB, to put in its base form, is a bit of plastic, kinda, that has wires embedded into it. Kinda plastic, kinda. Mostly glass, but ignore that. So anyways, it's a bit of plastic. It may as well be plastic. It's like I could eat it and throw it like a frisbee like it's plastic. It don't matter. So so a PCB is a printed circuit board, yeah? Now, nothing too much fun, man. So anyway, we can trust a PCB to hold these jacks in place. And I'm just going to make something custom for the jacks to go into and hold it in place and trace all the wires together instead of doing it manually every time. Now we have bish bash bosh module done. Okay, so the jacks are sorted, the way to connect them sorted, but we can't just have this frisbee just lying in the middle of nowhere. So we gotta put it in something, right? I mean, it's common sense. You want to put thing in thing to make things safe from other things. So 3D printing box. Make a box with holes in because it's going to go under a desk. So those are the three things we need, but what about the order of operations? Because if I design the box now, then I'd have to constrain myself to fit in the PCB within the box. So it's best to discuss with your client or yourself, if it's your own project, what you want the most. And the size of the box is of no concern. So that's good. So we'll do the PCB first and then design the box around it. PCB is also the bigger job, I guess. It's the more... No, I wouldn't say it's the more technological. The PCB is the more... The PCB is the more crucial. I'm not sure how I'd explain it. It seems the most sense to start with. The PCB production process can also be split into smaller chunks to easily hone in on what needs to be done. Introducing footprints! Well, I use KiCad for my PCB design, and it has a lovely feature, a footprint editor. Before beginning, it's always best to search the web to see if common footprints exist for download to save you some time and hassle. I mean, it's what I did when I made my custom mini MIDI A-key keyboard thingy. Getting keyboard switch mounts for hot swap switches. Just slap them down, man. Unfortunately, I can't find these footprints anywhere. They might exist, but I can't find them. You'd think they would be everywhere, because it's a common part and many manufacturers make it, but it don't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to make my own footprints. Thankfully, the audio jacks we're going to be using have a spec sheet that we can pull dimensions from. So basically copy those dimensions with the appropriate holes, size and solder joints into the footprint editor, and the footprint's done. Now we can just open up the PCB editor and put those in place. Well, it'd be kind of silly to have all three on the same side, so I'll keep it even, you know, a bit of UI. Design philosophy. Design philosophy. Yeah, because I'm a professional. Well, now they're just floating in place on the PCB, so we link them with connections, aka traces. Think of these like little wires, just tiny little wires. Also, make sure you can mount your PCB somehow, otherwise it would be floating in space. So I'm gonna put 3 holes in, 3M, 3mm seems standard, really. And something I like to do is add text on the silkscreen layer. When it's printed, then that text will be on top, which means I don't have to keep looking and measuring or remembering even the size of the PCB because it's right in front of me. I mean, it's not required, I just find it helps. Well, then export it and send it off to your favorite PCB contraption company. If you want to be just like me and get yourself some PCBs, make sure to go to PCB Way any time of the night or day, because any time of the night or day, any time of the night or day, I am a robot. That's Chewbacca. If you want to be just like me and get yourself some PCBs, make sure to go to PCB Way any time of the night or day, because they offer great service, and that's no joke. And the delivery times are quite bespoke, with many different options, styles and flavours. Everyone who uses them are quite big savers, and that's not all of what they offer. From 3D model printing to CNC and modules. So use my link if you want today, and head on over to PCB Way. Thank you to PCB Way for sponsoring this video. Couldn't have done it without you guys. Okay, so I've sent the PCBs in for production. I was told in school, never wait for a printer. So, let's design the boxes, I guess. That's right, because I now know the dimensions of the PCB I'm going to be having in my hands. I can just make the boxes now. And to do this, I'm going to do her in 2 parts. Who could have saw that coming? Split her up into smaller... First, a holding box for the PCB with appropriate sized pins to hold it in place. Then a space for the jacks to mount comfortably. And secondly, a top piece that slides over the top. That's what a top piece means. With the desk mounting holes that holds it all into place, comfortably and firmly. This way, when the box is screwed into the desk, the bottom piece will become the top and rest against the desk, while the screws hold the thing in place. Well, I will say with 3D printing, it's hard to get it right first time every time. In fact, first time any time is pretty difficult. But KiCad has a nice feature where you can export the PCB as a 3D model. So you can just print off a little 3D model of the PCB to do some fitment checks, and that's what I did.
Which brings us to this. Now I've already tested putting 2 different types of screws in it. One metric, one imperial inches, because obviously bolting into a desk is highly important. The only issue with the screws is that they're not countersunk, so that's something to be fixed. And that's the bottom piece. And this is the dummy 3D printed PCB, so I guess we just put this in here and see if it fits. Oh, look at that, it fits. Isn't that nice? Well, I guess it's good to test if the actual sockets fit. So, the socket fits. Let's take this nut off. Socket fits, and it looks like it's a nice firm fit in the bottom, so the holes are good. Put it in, make sure the box fits over the top. Ah. Well, there's an unfortunate oversight. Clearly, when designing the box, I made the size of the hole equal to the size of the jack. Yes, I did. Yeah. I made it the size of the jack and not the size of the actual socket, so I guess... Also, I was going to use a screw in there, a standard 3D print screw mount thing, and then put one of these in, but I don't think it needs it. I don't think it needs a screw in there. Let's keep costs down, redesign, turn that into a pin, make these countersunk. And is there anything else? Oh, the height is also slightly off, so I need to make the bottom piece taller as well. So there we go, let's do that, I guess. Okay, so accidentally in OBS I clicked start virtual camera instead of start recording. I don't know what a virtual camera is. Anyway, I went through a whole process of saying that I tested the screws' countersinkability and I could sink the screws effectively. Unfortunately, the boxes snap shut, so they're very hard to remove. So I printed another one and I put the dummy PCB in, which you'd have to believe me on. I mean, you see in there? There's nothing in there. It's just the dummy PCB and the jack. And then I put it on tight. I had to use a clamp because it's very tight and the bottom is flat. These messy bits here are just caused by... what are they caused by? 3D printing overhang. Because the top piece, that's the bottom of the top piece when it's printed, the 3D printer goes over. I'm not going to bother cleaning it up because the screw, what do they call it? The screw taps into the holes anyway, and you'll never see these, so they're just, yeah, something I'm not going to bother cleaning up, really. But yes, the jacks fit nicely now, so that's good.
Very nice. Nice, simple, cheap, effective, sturdy, rugged, all the good things. Just gotta wait for the PCBs to arrive now. Well, that was quick. My PCBs have arrived, so I guess now I just go,
And so, after all that meticulous planning, here we are. The top and bottom of the holding and mounting box, the components we're going to use, and the PCBs we designed. All that's left to do now is put these in these in these. And that should be rather straightforward. I haven't soldered anything for a while. I will be honest, too busy focusing on software rather than hardware. And flux just allows the solder to flow a little bit better. Let's see if I'm still in practice here. I guess not. Yeah, they don't look too terrible of joints, even though I'm a little out of practice.
test the prototype. Do not go all in without knowing that you will work. No, do not go all in without knowing what you did will work. Yes. And so yeah, what I did didn't work, and that's what prototypes are for. So I sent off for prototype PCBs, just 5 of them. They didn't work. I remodeled the PCB to make sure they did work, because the spec sheet of the audio jacks was incorrect. If you will join me in looking at this spec sheet for a moment, look at this part down here. What does that say to you? That says to me 1 and 4 is connected, 2 and 5 is connected, 3 and 6 are connected. But no, they're not. They're not at all. 3 pins receive the audio and 3 pins are just holder pins. So, yeah, that's a bit sucky. Anyway, redesign the PCBs and send them off. That was quick. And then do it again.
So here we are again. Isn't that wonderful? And these should hopefully be correct now. Kind of a shame that the first ones weren't. Hey, look at that. Shiny, shiny, shiny PCBs. Well, there's an idea. PCB playing cards. So yes, more or less much of the same design, except these pins are now joined, these pins are joined, and these pins are joined. Does mean it's a dual layer PCB. It doesn't add anything to the cost really, but trying to keep the production process down was something I wanted to do. We've also had to change jacks slightly, which actually should make things a little easier. When that goes in there, the only contacts made are to the top pins, not the side. These ones are no longer in stock, so that's good. As such, the holes are actually bigger now, so it doesn't matter that much. So I'm just going to go OTT on the solder, guarantee some joints as they're going to be heavily abused, and I wouldn't want to send things that are going to be subpar. Now, let's put in a box. I've learnt my lesson from last time. I'm going to test these before putting the top on, because the top snaps on very tightly. So I'm going to do that now. It's based on a manga because, of course, lovely. This is a fighting game. It's a fighting game. Did you know that? I didn't. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad, does it? It's quite nice. There's no sound loss at all. Each boss is unique and into their design. Cool. Operation confirmed. Now all I gotta do is make 20 of them. Order of testing. I'm just gonna make these one by one and test them one by one. That's a good test. I think the hardest part is getting the top on the bottom. Good old tolerances. Number 2. Number 3. Be right. Much nicer fit. We have our first failure. Why is focus never working? We have our first failure, and that's a shame. Clamped a little too hard on one side, snapped the top off. Okay, okie dokie. It happens. Flattest bottom yet. That's lovely, that. It's lovely. See, now my problem is with this flux, okay? I've got loads of it. I bought this ages ago, and I'm kind of fed up using it. I'd love to change it for something a bit more manageable than dipping globs everywhere with a toothpick. However, I don't want to waste the money that I spent on it. You know what I mean? And number 10 looks fantastic.
And that's how I went from this, nothing, to this. 2 moments. It's a good thing they're rugged, eh? Am I sat on one? How did I get on here? To this. And more, because there's more being printed now. This is me without sound buffering things. I'm going to put these somewhere safe. Breaking things down into smaller pieces that can be easily reproduced on the fly is essentially what mass production was and is today. If you can refine a process by breaking it down into smaller reproducible chunks, then every time you produce that thing you will always get the same thing. Sturdy and reliable. It's also way easier for it to get done then, I guess. Even the scripting of this video, as he rubs his nose, even the scripting of this video was broken into smaller pieces because it helps me maintain a workflow. I guess that's what the workflow word means. It flows like water down a hill. I don't know what I'm talking about. Do you? Anyway, like, stop rubbing your nose. I mean, I'm recording this script now, but I've already made the intro that you've seen already, but I have seen also, but I haven't seen what you're watching right now, but even though I'm existing in the moment that is exists, but you haven't been there yet, I guess. But I have, but not yet, but I will be, and again.
I am now, actually, because look, it's the fourth wall broken. Isn't that nice?
That is to say, I'm not a pro, by any means. I just do these little things, and one of the main reasons I put these things on YouTube is to hopefully spark a little bit of the creative mind in you, because I want to see what people can make, and I think we all make the world a better place, and altruism and all the good things. But maybe you learned something, or maybe you didn't. I don't know. I mean, I'm no pro by any means. Okay? I'm a tinkerer. I make things go. But maybe you learned something from me. I don't like this end, man. This ending ain't working for me. I can't see, bro. You get windows! Maybe when you're creating something, you will remember to break things down into smaller pieces. Because it really does make things a lot easier. And bring in anything from an idea to a reality. I'm no pro... say some other words. Fourth time's the charm. Like... Fourth, fifth, sixth, seven. And don't forget to check out PCB Way. If you ever need a PCB made, there's a link in the description. Get something for free, why don't you? Because why not? You deserve it. Oh, and like and subscribe.
Mega Sound Bob. Create custom soundboards on your desktop using any sounds and images you like, including GIFs. Supports multi-touch for touchscreen devices. Try the demo today, and if you like it, buy the full version to support this channel.
But wait, hold up, there's more to watch. You wanna check this out?